Once upon a time at the Parthenon in ancient Athens on top of an inaccessible hill, a group of neurodiverse young people met to discuss a very unfair law that meant one of them, a young girl named Hermia, couldn't marry the man she loved. Meanwhile, Theseus, Duke of Athens, told anyone who would listen about his fiancée, Hippolyta. He wanted nothing to disturb his forthcoming wedding. Hermia's father Aegeus demanded Hermia marry Demetrius, for he was his chosen one, certainly not Lysander, who was Hermia's chosen one. The Duke supported Aegeus. Hermia was to marry Demetrius or spend the rest of her life in a convent. Demetrius was slightly embarrassed about this, but his secret love Helena was there to comfort him. Theseus brought Hermia and Demetrius together, but she was having none of it. Helena went from Demetrius to comfort her friend. Suddenly, a voice spoke to Theseus. Her name Azelia Rose, ethereal goddess from the heavens above.
Theseus! Theseus! How would you feel from the heart if you could not marry the one you loved?
Theseus looked for the source of the voice, but it was nowhere to be found. Hermia and her friends huddled together, anxious about the decision the Duke had thrust upon them, until Lysander said, "Yes, the forest with its trees that stretch tall to the clouds, its grass as green, and the stars as bright as the never-ending cosmos." But they forgot about the wild animals, the bears, the wolves, the jackals, the danger.
Night fell, and in another part of the Parthenon, on top of an inaccessible hill, a band of neurodiverse tradies were exhausted after their climb. The band's director, Peter Quince, told this rabble that they were here to rehearse a tragedy for the Duke's upcoming nuptials, Pyramus and Thisbe. He had cast Snout as the wall and Starveling as Moon. Snug was to play the lion, a friendly lion, not a scary lion. He wanted the audience to feel safe. Francis Flute was to play the dainty heroine of the tale, Thisbe. And Bottom, the weaver, who had eagerly anticipated a role, he was Pyramus, the hero. Though he also realised the Parthenon was a sensory minefield. Too loud, too bright, too smelly, and too cramped. Finally, Peter Quince had a brilliant idea. We will go to the forest to rehearse. A calm and friendly place with lots and lots of space.
Time moved on. After all, this was a magic forest where time had no relevance at all. On the forest floor lay a vast array of brightly coloured sensory gifts, slugs that clicked like lovesick cicadas, glow-in-the-dark worms, wraparound tangles, puppets for a puppet, larva lamps to warm the atmosphere, neurodiverse heaven. Puck, the mischievous son of Oberon and Titania, king and queen of the fairies made quite the entrance as a naughty, naughty fox. "Puck, what on earth are you playing with?" "What a silly Puck." "Wait, foxes can't climb trees. Or can they? Clever Puck. Looks like your daddy Oberon is looking for you. And Mammy Titania too." Uh-oh. Oberon came down to Puck's level and appealed to him. Puck was anxious, but his daddy would never hurt him. All Oberon and Titania wanted was for Puck to come back as Puck. Titania and Oberon heard the presence of humans. "Quick, we need to figure out what to do." Puck could hear them too. Puck rushed away to hide. His mammy and daddy followed. Just in time, because into the clearing ran Hermia and Lysander. The lovers immersed themselves into this new atmosphere, happier than they'd ever been before, freer than they'd ever been before. Lysander searched the forest floor and discovered a puppet for a puppet. It was the perfect gift for Hermia. Lysander's feet were cold, so he pulled down the sentry socks conveniently hanging from the trees and gave one to Hermia. The lovers rolled around the forest floor like little kiddies on Christmas Day. Looks like they've worn themselves out. The nighttime sounds were soothing, but they became louder and louder and louder until... Scared now, the lovers looked at each other. They didn't see Helena and Demetrius approaching from behind, until suddenly, there they were. How happy they all were to be reunited. Earnestly, Demetrius announced that they were in the kingdom of the fairies, but Hermia and Lysander didn't believe him. Demetrius told them that the fairies existed from the old religion, from the storybooks that were powerful, the guardians of the forest that spread their magic dust over all things to protect. Now Hermia and Lysander understood. Fairies did indeed exist. The lovers stood awestruck until Lysander spotted something coming into sight. The king and queen of the fairies marched towards the lovers. "What is your business on our territory?" they demanded. With youthful exuberance, the lovers bombarded Oberon and Titania with their complaints about the unfair law of Athens. Oberon and Titania looked at each other. They weren't buying into this. "Banish them," said Titania, which made the lovers anxious about being made to return to Athens. And there it was, the sound of the bugle announcing the imminent arrival of the Duke's hunting party. A sound that would change everything.
In another part of the forest, the tradies were making their mark. They had begun eagerly rehearsing. Snug as the friendly lion, snout as wall, starveling as moon. Flute was practicing her stage fighting, but the trees had other ideas. The tradies grew impatient, waiting for the star of the show. Frances Flute thought that she should be the star of the show, and Starveling thought he should be the star of the show. Snout knew he had the most important job of all. The Duke's hunting party was closing in, and Puck was clumsily fleeing the hounds. The tradies realised that if they could catch this fox, they might get a shiny royal reward. One after the other, the tradies tried and tried and tried. Quince had an idea. What about working together? Even that failed. The King and Queen of the Fairies flew in to the rescue. No way was anyone going to hurt their son for some shiny reward. They scattered their magic dust amongst the rabble, turning them into Grecian statues. But as Titania reminded Oberon, truly, as fairies, we can do anything. Aha, said Oberon. Then let us create a potion of tender, unconditional love from ingredients of rosemary, lavender, honey, musk, petals of blue, spices of clove, and star anise. A wolf's tear will bind these gifts together, and in the mixing bestow kindness, care, devotion, trust, affection, equality, unity, strength, and peace upon all who breathe its fumes and taste its sweet delights. Alas, the potion was only halfway effective. But Oberon was secretly pleased. He knew the malfunction was part and parcel of mischievous Puck. Puck wondered, when did the forest get statues? Oberon had to remind him, these people were trying to kill you. He told Titania that the tradies needed to be taught a lesson. Humans, you must watch, beware. In the forest, you must take care. What you chase, you may replace. Be careful what you wish or trick for. In the Duke's eyes, you become the prize. The lovers were deeply worried about what had happened to the naughty fox. They raised their eyes to see the fairy king and queen looming over them, and that the creature they had seen was not quite a fox. They realized that the strange creature was afraid. So they each searched the forest floor for a calming sensory gift to soothe his troubled mind. Hermia stepped forward first, with a poppet for a poppet. Lysander, a moon that dazzled through centuries of time. Demetrius, the soothing sound of panpipes. Helena had a feather from the Pegasi. Oberon and Titania were happy that these humans showed a different, more caring side to their natures, but they were interrupted by the Duke's arrival. "Bow down," demanded Theseus, but the fairies stood their ground. Suddenly, Theseus heard a familiar sound.
Theseus! Oh, great Theseus! Why do you hurt these people?
That voice again!
You see this vulnerable creature? You see how he shakes? You see the fear in his eyes? You see the tear rolling down his cheek?
Where was it coming from?
I am Azelia Rose, the voice of reason, Theseus. Listen to the advice I give you. You can be a kinder version of yourself, a better version of yourself.
Theseus felt compelled to listen to the goddess. He felt his inner wisdom stirring.
You must give choice, Theseus. You must give respect. You must give freedom.
Gradually, the foxes came out of their hidey holes and tried to help their old mate Quince to move. Eventually, Oberon and Titania realised they couldn't rightfully leave the tradies in this state. Snout was happy to be Wall, a very important job. Starveling held the moon with pride. And Bottom, well, he was the star of the show. Theseus apologized to Hermia. He could now see the lovers' true pairings, Hermia and Lysander, Helena and Demetrius, and he swore to revoke the hostile law that had kept them apart. Theseus called on all his newfound friends to return to Athens with him, where they could love whoever they wanted forevermore.
Time shape-shifted effortlessly forward to 2022, Athens. It was now an accessible city, but there was always room for improvement. The fairies came first, preparing the way for the lovers to make their newlywed status. Hermia and Lysander, Helena and Demetrius, Peter Quince announced that after a lot of hard work, his cast of tradies were ready to present the hilarious tragedy of Pyramus and Thisbe, featuring forbidden love, a ferocious lion, a woman who gets chased by the lion, until finally Bottom gave his sincere thanks to the fairies for teaching them all to be kinder to trees and to animals, especially a fox. Snug came on as a lion to announce that underneath the rug she was still the carpenter Snug. And Snout, he was Wall that stood proud and tall. And Starveling was Moon that made everyone swoon. As Thisbe, Flute was dignified lady, not oatfish tradie. As Pyramus, Bottom was last, but best in the cast. The play got underway, a truly hilarious tragedy, from start to end. No, they hadn't finished. They had a long, long way to go. Pyramus found Thisbe's scarf. Oh, would this mean he would be eaten too? And that was it. The story of a reimagined Midsummer Night's Dream. And they all lived happily ever after.